appreciate you calling this hearing. I know that Congress has a responsibility, and the President does as well, that we review this every year, and yet I was chagrined to learn that we haven't done it since 1979, so thank you for doing this, and I thank the witnesses for being here today. I just have a couple quick questions. Mr. Emmerich, you know, and we have a perfect case study here in Iraq where there were systemic problems in the screening of Iraqi refugee applicants here. At a recent hearing, the FBI Assistant Director, Michael Steinbach, told the House Homeland Security, and I'm quoting this, the administration has, quote, learned its lesson, unquote, since the problems it had with the Iraqi refugee admissions effort. Can you tell us what specific measures in your agency have been taken to remedy the problems and what do we learn from that exercise that we can apply here?
Absolutely. Let me briefly describe the types of checks and what we do now and how it's changed. Oh, sorry. Let me just briefly describe the nature of the checks we do now and how they've changed. So the checks are multi-layered. They involve both biographic information and not just one data element, but multiple biographic data elements and fingerprints, so biometric data. The checks are done not just at one time, they're done over a period of time and in some cases continuously throughout the process. They touch against a broad range of U.S. government holdings. So our biometric check, our fingerprint check checks against FBI fingerprint holdings. It checks against DOD fingerprint holdings, which include fingerprints that have been obtained overseas. And it also checks against the DHS fingerprint system, which contains records of any time someone has passed through a U.S. border, their fingerprints are captured and they go into the DHS system.
Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry to do this because I want to hear the rest of this. But in Iraq, we also had background checks and actually talked to people on the ground in Iraq when we had a lot of troops on the ground and a lot of people in Iraq. We don't have that in Syria. So is that not going to create a tremendous shortfall in data in addition to the technical checks you're talking about? So
we have added a specific interagency check since the time that we were in Iraq, and we can brief you on that in detail in another setting. But another additional thing that we've done for this population is the enhanced review that I described. So the individual comes in contact at first, the refugee applicant comes in contact with UNHCR. He provides a story, and at that time, all of his family members and the applicant, I'm saying he, it could be she, the principal applicant is registered as do the family members. Then that that individual is interviewed again at the RSC. So by the time our folks are reviewing the application, they've already been talked to twice. They have had a very good incentive to provide accurate information to the UNHCR, because that's how, at that registration, that's how they get food rations and housing for the most part. So I don't want to discount the importance of the interview here, because this is a face-to-face encounter where the refugee officers have been specially trained in the country and country conditions. They know what questions to ask an individual who is leaving Syria. They know what questions to ask about military service, what questions to ask about possible bars. And we look at, if there are national security concerns there, we look at the consistency of all those encounters, and that gives us an opportunity to ask additional questions. So we have individuals with a lot of expertise who can inform questions there.
Okay, thank you. I need to go on to this last question. Is there any other major priority you want to make on that point you want to make? Okay, thank you. Mr. Bartle, I apologize. I'm about out of time, but I just want to get back to one thing, and that is the definition of a refugee. if someone leaves Syria, and look, we know there's a major humanitarian crisis there. We know that. We've been talking in the Senate about the causes of that. But what I'd like to do now is if someone leaves Syria and they go to Turkey and they live a year and all of a sudden they don't like where they are in Turkey and they apply to the U.S., are they by definition considered a refugee, a Syrian refugee, for U.S. consideration in our process?
I think I have to defer to DHS because they make the final determination.
The definition of a refugee is contained in the Refugee Convention, and U.S. law very closely tracks that. So basically looking at whether a person has suffered past persecution or has a well-founded fear of persecution on account of one of the protected grounds, which is race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. However, there is a bar under U.S. law to resettlement if an individual has been firmly resettled in another country. There is quite a bit of law around what it means to be firmly resettled. If you are living in precarious circumstances, if you're not able to work, if your children can't go to school, if you're, if you're in a tenuous circumstance, that does not amount to firm resettlement, even if you have been in a country for a long period of time. So it's a fact-specific circumstance. And in a short way of thinking about it is, if you have the set of sort of rights that were similar to that a green card holder would have in the United States, that you can live and work indefinitely, that starts looking like firm resettlement. So we would investigate that on an individual basis and look at what the laws are in the country of first asylum.
One last quick question. I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but of all the refugee applications, how many are accepted versus rejected, would you say, in a given year, percentage? Worldwide,
our average approval rate is about 80%. Right now, it's higher than that for Syrian applicants, but it's likely to come down. Right now, it's running a little over 90% for Syrian applicants, but that percentage is based on all the cases that have been decided, yes and no. What it leaves out is cases that are still under review, are still on hold. We think a number of those hold cases, when they're finally decided, are going to turn into denials. So when we have a little more experience with the caseload, we expect that the rate will come down somewhat.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. This is very important.